Revolutionary love to you all. My name is Baba, Dr. Brother Samori Camara, and indeed, it's a beautiful thing to be here. So I just get started. There was a teacher, a sister. She was teaching in the prison system. She was teaching these young brothers, or trying to teach them math, right? And she was telling one of her friends, she came home one day, she said, I can't teach them. I'm trying everything that I can. But they just don't want to learn. I don't understand. I mean, it's probably a good reason why they're here, because they just can't learn, right? And so the friend that she was talking to, he said, all right, I'll go there with you the next time you go, right? And so he went in there, and she said, okay, we got a guest. Let's go and talk to him. He got up there, he said to them, a kilo. How many grams is that? They gave her the answer, right? They gave him the answer. He said, a kilo, how many pounds is that? They gave him the answer. They said an ounce. He said an ounce. How many grams is an ounce? Gave him the answer. Right? He said, if I'm going to sell a nickel bag, how many grams is a nickel bag or a dime bag? He said, well, we're not going to really deal with nickel and dime bags. That's real small. And you're going to be selling a lot of nickel and dime bags, we want to get money in this net. But it's about 4.7 grams. So he looked to the sister, he said, do you know the metric system? He said, no. He said, well, maybe you should have them teach you. Right? Now that is not necessarily about Ebonics, but it's about speaking somebody's language. Right? Helping them to understand what you were trying to teach them by using something that they already know. That's what Ebonics is, though, right? Right? We're not talking about teaching our children Ebonics, they already know it. But using Ebonics, the Grecians, whatever we call it, right? To help them learn something else. Right? So, but I haven't always been rolling with that understanding. Right? I've had a lot of struggles and challenges when it comes to this particular conversation. I'm sure you have. Right? And so I used to wonder whether or not I should just teach them English. Right? Because, people were saying that Ebonics was a joke. People were saying that, it's lazy, it's ignorant, right? I used to wonder whether or not I should just be trying to help them get a job and whether or not this would have hampered them if we trying to teach them Ebonics, right? So, the reality is, I had to come to the realization when I started reading brothers like Amos Wilson, when I started reading brothers like Ayikwe Armand, when I started reading brothers like Chancellor Williams and all the boys, right? When I started reading about Yah Santuai and all these folks, I had to say, okay, what would happen if we actually taught them how to build their own jobs? How would the education system be? Right? Instead of always looking to somebody else for validation. Always looking at ourselves through somebody else's eyes. Looking at the world through blue eyes ourselves. So how active going to see us if we start talking like this? We need to get that out of our, we need to get that out of our system. Right? But for me, I used to be a public food system teacher. I call it a public food system. The public school system. I taught in the public food system for 5 years, right? And when I began to come into these kind of understandings, I was teaching at backtrack a little bit. In 2006, as a graduate student, I ran the school board in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I was at Louisiana Slave University, LSU. And I said, I'm going to run for school board because at the time I was like, I'm trying to change the system from within. Right? And so I went in there and I was campaigning in South Baton Rouge. And I came up with a lady on her porch and I said, Miss, can I talk to you for a minute about my campaign for the school board? She said, sure, babe, come on up. Right? And so we began to talk, and I'm breaking it down. The curriculum, it ain't no good for us. This paid for teaching teachers to, or having teachers paid if their students pass the test. It's no good. We need to have more black teachers in there, the curriculum, whatever. After talking to her about 2 hours, she said, baby, everything you're saying is right. I mean, you got good talk. I mean, I'm not going to vote for you because I don't vote. What I'm saying is this. What I'm saying is, until you have your own school, I gotta send my babies to the white folks in the morning. I said, okay. Right? It's enough talk right there, right? They say a word to the wise is enough. That's African wisdom. We need a whole bunch of talking if we know what is right, right? And so at that time, I said, okay, I got to build my own school. Now, Franz Fanon also tells us that every generation must find its mission and either fulfill it or betray it. At that moment, I began to delay my mission. Say, okay, I'm gonna wait till I graduate school, then I'm gonna start my school. I'm gonna wait till I get a couple years in there and really learn how to do this thing, then I'm gonna start school. I'm gonna wait till I get a house or a car, and then I'm gonna start school. This is delaying my mission, right? Before I continued on with my graduate studies, wow, a teacher friend of mine said, you need to come back into the school system because I couldn't be in the school system while I ran the school board, right? So I left. And then he said, come on back. I met these students at Scotlandville High School. These students were in the 10th grade. When I came in there, I think it was Kwame Ture, Stokely Carmichael, who said something. He said, as a teacher, you're either a liberator or you are an oppressor. There's no in between. Either you're going to be liberating the minds or you're going to be oppressing the minds. And again, I was reading Falsification of African Consciousness, Blueprint for Black Power, and all that kind of stuff by Amos Wilson at this time. So I said, all right, I'll go back in there, but I'm going to be teaching them how to be revolutionary. So I get in there the first day, I say, take out your language arts textbook. 99% black school, 99.9% black school. I said, tell me how many black people you have in that textbook. They rummaged through. They were looking hard. You were looking. They asked me a name. What was his name? Hawthorne, right? Is that a black person? No, that's not a black person. Keep looking, right? And so I think they found only one black person. It was Maya Angelou. They had an excerpt from I Know Why Caged Birds Sing. Right? So I said, all right, well, my first day here, but don't bring that textbook back. They wanted to fight me. Right? I'm like, hold on, y'all ran that white lady off. That's you before. Y'all didn't do nothing out of this book. Right? I said, we need this because we gotta pass these tests. You gotta teach us this. I said, look, I'm gonna teach you through our own stuff. So we read the autobiography of Malcolm. We read, this is Matt Booth, right? So we actually used Lil Boosie lyrics also in the classroom. Tupac, Nikki Giovanni, Sonia Sanchez, and all those folks. This is high school English, right? Now the students, most of the teachers are teaching them how to pass the test. Right? I'm using Ebonics in the classroom. I'm using our language, our music, our soul, right? Our style. Standardized test come around. The standardized test says whether or not you can go to the next grade. You can pass all your classes, but if you don't pass this test, you're going to stay right where you are, right? And so all the other teachers are teaching them for the test, The students say, all right, you're ready for the test. They take the test. Right? They come back to me and say, look, I ain't see nothing on Black history on there. There's one question about Martin Luther King, and that was it, but thank you for helping me. Because I believe I did very well on the test, right? 2 weeks later, the school comes on an intercom and says, greetings students, tomorrow we'll be starting another round of testing. These tests, these questions are going to help us see which going to be the questions on the LEAP test next year. I say, damn, you haven't even got the grades. You haven't even got the scores for the standardized test that you've been working all year for. I'm going to give you another test. Why not just use those scores, those questions, to see which ones will be good next year, right? So I'm in the classroom. I said, now look, I've been talking all that black talk all this semester, all this year. I came in January, right? Now this is April. I said, I've been talking all this black talk. What are you going to do about it? Are you going to sit here and let yourself be used as lab rats or guinea pigs? Right? He said, well, I'm going to stay home for the test. Well, I don't want anything on the test. Right? I said, no, come to school. Right? When you get that test, you let the folks know. And I have to get a test also because I'm a teacher, right? When you get that test, let them know that you're not going to be using a lab rat or a guinea pig. And you tell them why you're not going to take this test. Right? And so, first day of testing. 90% of the students
being down too far
didn't take the test.
I'm sorry.
Right? And after that first day of testing, we had a faculty meeting in the library. They were talking around the conversation. I heard that some teacher is telling these children to take this test. Right? So I'm in there, and I said, if we're going to talk about it, let's go ahead and talk about it out in the open. So, because we need to know, again, why you're using our children as lab rats and guinea pigs, right? He says, Mr. Camara, you and those children must understand that they got to take this test because we need this money. I said, just like that? Now look at all these black teachers that was in the room. I said, you see how these people are using our children? Right? If we don't stand up for them, who's going to stand up for them? They said I got on a table and started yelling and all that kind of stuff. I remember that part.
Joe Clark.
What I'm saying is, I let us have it. All right? There definitely some choice words. They asked me to leave. Okay? They asked me to leave. They didn't hire me, but they asked me to leave. Right? I came back to the school the next day like nothing was wrong. Right? It was like, look, brother, because of yesterday, you're going to have to go down to the school. Right? And so I went down to the school. The students made signs and said, you know, fight the power and stand up. Like, we're not going to do this. The second day of testing, 95% of the students didn't take credit. Right? I was put on paid administrative leave for the rest of the semester. Right? But that right there told me that our children are rebelling every day. Right? They're rebelling in many ways. We just need to give them something, right, positive to rebel for. Right? We need to be teachers who are going to be liberators not only of their minds, but help them liberate themselves, right, in their community. Right? So these are the students, some of the students, because we came back for a protest like the next week, and they locked the school down like I was a terrorist or something. But the students ran out of the school to come and be around and say, man, you were the best teacher I've had. Right? You made me feel comfortable. You spoke my language. It was not like you were just a sage on stage, but you were a guide on my side. Right? And so that's kind of my story, right? But there's still old ideas that say that we should only learn standard English. But we know there's no standard, though, right? We know that standard, Dr. Marumba talks about standard as something that's frozen, something that's without style, that's stagnant. We know our language ain't nothing stagnant about it, always changing, right? And we know it's about power because the standard language, maybe in Senegal, the standard language is probably French. Because somebody else forced our people to learn that first. Right? You go to Ghana, the standard language is English because the colonizer forced our people to learn that language first. So standard, ain't no standard. Right? I'm from New Orleans. Right? Born and raised in New Orleans. And if I'm standing somewhere and I hear somebody in the back of me talking, that could be a black dude or a white man. Sound just like us. Right? Using the same kinds of language that we're using. Right? Somebody said also that it's just not useful. Right? It's absolutely useful. Right? If we want to communicate with each other, now we can try to speak the so-called King's English and all that kind of stuff, but we ain't gonna feel it like if a brother speaking like we speak at home. Right? But these folks right here think it's useful. I'm loving it. Dropping the G's off it and everything, right? Isn't that us? These folks here think it's useful.
He put it.
Yeah, where you go? Not to say that.
Right? That's what they say.
Where you at?
Making billions of dollars using our language. And we can talk about the music with the NBA and all those commercials and all that kind of stuff, using our stuff. Whoop, there it is. There's a commercial I heard on Pandora the other day or something. Using that in the background. Right? They also say it's ignorant and it's lazy.
Yeah, that's what
they say. But Dr. Ernie Smith teaches us that it ain't ignorant and it ain't lazy, it's accurate. Right? And you definitely want to talk more about how it is accurate, right? And also, I learned that saying like, you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You feel me?
Yeah.
Equals, you don't have confidence. Just say what you're going to say. They ain't gonna understand. Maybe it's that we are feeling kind of people. That when we speak to somebody, we want to make sure that we're on the same page. We're not going to leave it to chance. Do you understand what I'm saying? Yeah. Even in the church, we say, can I get a witness? Somebody let me know that you feel me today. Yeah. Right? Yeah. That's just the way we do our thing. Right? Yeah. The challenge for us, though, we understand what has happened, right? The challenge for us is to see what could be. Right? What could be if we really nurture the seeds of those great trees of tomorrow. In order to nurture those seeds, we have to understand who our children are, where they are coming from, and how to speak their language. Right? We have to learn how to speak their language. If we don't learn how to speak their language, then we will never really connect with them. I have 3 points on how we can use Ebonics in the classroom, or why, the value of it. And number one, it builds relationships. Right? It builds relationships. when you come into a classroom, right, it says here, as you try to help and influence the people around you, you must have positive feelings and concern for them. If you want to make a positive impact on them, you cannot dislike, despise, or disparage them. Check out my notes on there too. I gotta see my notes. Which one? All right, whatever. We're gonna make it. All right, we keep moving. All right, so the builds relationship, right? We have that quote here. Many of the people who are dealing with our children don't like our children. People look just like us, don't like our children. Chocolate covered saltines video, right? Just a chocolate covered cracker for the most part, right? When we speak a person's language, now, I was talking to the sister recently, right? A couple months ago. And we was just trying to get to know each other. And I told her that, yeah, I changed my name. I changed my slave name in 2005, right after Katrina, right? She said, well, what's your mama name? What's your mama name? I said, you know my slave name? No, I'm talking about your government name, the name that your mama gave you, right? And right then I knew that this probably wasn't going to work out with me and her. For simple reason, she refused to echo my language. If I say slave name, you say slave name also.
Right.
But if you don't, I don't feel that we're connected. Right? So there's a lot of things our children, I'm not saying go to our children and try to be guilty and talk just like they talk, because it changes so much, you might make yourself look silly, right? but at least be willing to understand a little bit of what they're saying, right? When we're talking about building a relationship, it builds comfort, right? When we walk into in front of our children ask you 3 questions. Do you care? Can I trust you? And are you committed? Do you care? Can I trust you? And are you committed? Now, again, I'm from New Orleans. New Orleans, I don't know if you know, is all charter. Every school in New Orleans, outside of private, are all charter schools. Yeah. Right? And we know who is filling these charter schools. TFA, Teach for America Teachers. Yeah. Who were there for 2 years, most of them leave after 1 year. You come down to have fun on Bourbon, doing Mardi Gras, and then they're going wherever the hell they came from. That's right. So when these folks walking through our classroom, our children already know we ain't committed. Yeah. Already had 7 T4 American people, the name last. But they only give them, 2 weeks? Yeah. Maybe 3 weeks of so-called instruction on how to be a teacher and then send them to our children? Mm-hmm. As a teacher, how many teachers we have here? Many of us know that after 3 years, you just get the hang of it. You don't know nothing in those first couple of years, right? These people get 3 weeks of instruction and then are dumped on our children, right? Don't understand who they are, right? If a child just looks at them, funny, they think, oh, he needs to go to the office because he's going to get me. Right? Builds comfort. Also projects character. Again, if you learn somebody's name, I go to Ghana pretty frequently, and whenever I go there, I'm trying to speak street. I'm trying to speak Fanta to the folks. Right? And whenever I speak their language, what do you think they do? They smile. They smile. They smile first. Yeah. Right? You're like, well, look, that's what you do. Good. Look, I want to speak to you in an African tongue. Right? It also prevents shame. Many of our children, when they go into the school, right, they are ashamed of the language that they speak at home. They begin to become ashamed of the language. Right? Because if you have the teachers telling you, don't talk like that. folks are, around that teacher telling you, don't talk like that,
Ain't
right?
that something?
You begin to say, all right, well, mama, when I go home, mama, when teacher said, you don't say it like that. It gets to be a disconnect there, right? With your friends, if you take that propaganda, then you become separated from the people that are very close to you, right? Because they don't even know how to talk, right? Come on, you gotta talk to me like these white folks talk to me if you want to talk to me, right? Hopefully, most of our children don't take it that way, but we know some of the most important people, some of the most intelligent, so-called intelligent folks in our community speak in a way that is totally disconnected from who they are as a black person, right? And it seems like that language has also carried over into their culture. They don't want to be African, they're more European than they are African in their minds, right? So it just happens like that. I mean, and the teachers are powerful. When I was in first grade, I had a teacher named Miss C.T. Johnson, one of my favorite teachers, right? But I have never drank chocolate milk because Miss C.T. Johnson told me in first grade, we don't drink chocolate milk. If you're going to drink milk, you drink white milk. Right? Mama, we will go home. Mama, you got chocolate milk in there. Miss C.T. Johnson said,
That's what they
we don't
say.
drink that.
That's what they do.
Right? So we have to understand that the teacher is the curriculum. Now, a little bit of background on who I am. I started in African Center homeschool 6 years ago. Right? Because I said, like that lady told me, until you have your own school, I got to sit my babies some white folks in the morning. 3 years later, I started my school. So with 2 students, now we have 17. Right? And we waffle around that number, 17, 15 to about 23. Right? So I understand that the teacher is the curriculum. We can't put people in front of our children who don't care about us and who don't know us.
Yeah.
Because our children, if a teacher is good, our children are going to come out just like that teacher. Right? Just like that teacher. So if we put our children in front of, put strangers in front of our children, put enemies in front of our children, then what are we going to get? Right? Another thing is, it increases understanding. Speak a person's language, it increases understanding. We speak their first language. Right? Now you probably can speak their second language, their third language, but if you really want them to understand, if you can speak their first language, you speak that. Right? Franz Fanon, again, he says that to speak a language is to take on a world, a culture. Right? And your man, not my man, your man, Nelson Mandela also said, you talk to a man, if you talk to a man in a language he understands, that goes to his head. If you talk to him in his own language, that goes to his heart. Right? I say your man, because I'm not really a fan of Mandela. If you know South African history, you know Robinson Mugabe, you understand apartheid, then you might have a different idea as well. Right? But that's a great quote though, because it's the truth. And how many of us are going into the classroom and telling our children, don't talk like that? I don't want to hear, like speaking a person's language is not necessarily just verbal, but also trying to make whatever you're teaching relevant to them. Right? We ain't trying to make it relevant. We got a common core. Right?
Yeah.
Common core with very Eurocentric kind of education. I say we need an African core. Right? We don't need standardization, we need an Africanization of our curriculum for our children. If it don't happen in the school system, we must build our own. Who are these people here? Anybody tell me? Who is this person? Who was he a part of? The Deacons for Defense, Bogalusa, Louisiana. Right? Now, why would I put them up there when I'm talking about language and speaking somebody's language? I put them up there when we're talking about speaking somebody's language because when the KKK, when these white folks ran up in our community and shooting guns at us, lynching us, trying to intimidate us, the Deacons for Defense said, we can't speak a different language of nonviolence and protest. We got to speak their language. Let's get our guns also.
Go ahead.
And guess what? The night riots stopped. When you speak somebody's language, we get a better understanding of what's going on. Right? Dr. Amos Wilson tells us that the purpose of education is to secure the survival of a people. The purpose of this education seems to be to kill the innate culture of an African. To kill the African, right? Kill the African mind, but keep the African body. Right? That's what's going on in these schools. Dr. Amos Wilson also tells us that if you send a white child to school and they have a 50-minute English class, right? That white child is just brushing up on the English that they already speak at home with their family, with their friends, right? But if you send a black child to a school and he has a 50-minute English class, he is learning a totally different language. And so he is not going to learn as much as that white child can learn in that same 50 minutes. And so then you say he's remedial. Then you say he has a learning disability. Then you say that he can't learn. He's special ed. And of course, if you say special ed, you get more money from him. So that's a good deal for them. Right? English Muslim teachers us a great deal. And definitely means the psychology, the developmental psychology of the black child, the awakening of the natural genius of the black child, and the falsification of African consciousness by Dr. Amy. Right? And the last thing is, we must make it relevant. It makes it relevant when we speak that language. It makes it relevant. African wisdom teaches us that if you want to know how fast a child can go, send them where they want to go. I said again, if you want to know how fast a child can go, send them where they want to go. Right? So, to take it to language, if you want to know how fast a child can learn, speak it in their language. Give it to them in their language, and you're going to see how fast they can learn. Right? And this is an exhibit that they had in New Orleans. But it wasn't really an exhibit. A brother just went to an old abandoned project, right? Hopped the fence and just started spray painting, right? Pictures of Malcolm, Huey, Ella Baker, and all these kind of folks, just in a abandoned housing project in New Orleans. So we took our children over there, our students over there. Let's go check it out. Made it relevant for them. We talked about Malcolm in the classroom, right? But let's go see this brother. Did he ask anybody to go in here? Can I do this? See, we ask for permission from other folks. We give them a veto power over our life. The sister earlier, she said that we always asking, who's gonna let us do this? Who's gonna let us do that? Right? Said, who's gonna fight us? Who's gonna stop us from doing this? Right? Who's gonna stop us? We doing it. Who's gonna stop us? That's a different kind of mentality. Right? I teach at Dillard University in New Orleans. I teach African American history, American history. Also, I teach African world studies. So I teach my students, of course, about the Berlin Conference, right, of 1884. You know about that, right? Where all these European nations came together to create these borders that you see on an African map to this day, right? And so I told them, very academically, not really. I can't even call them. I don't even be doing academic stuff like that. I'm gonna say it to you the way I know you gonna understand. Right? But I took it a step further this time. Right? I said, you know what? I'm going to do a whole history class talking like a gangster from Third Ward, New Orleans. Uptown, Magnolia Project. That's how I'm going to talk. So let me see if you can better understand me talking about the Berlin Conference speaking like that. Right? So I said, then you heard me? So look, I'm the British, you the French. Right? I don't want no beef with you. So look, we're gonna sit down here like real men, like real G's do, right? And we're gonna hash this out so we won't have no bloodshed between me and you. Alright, so I want West Africa, right? What you want? Okay, you want a little bit of east, little south, okay. Alright, well, but look here though. See, Italy is my man's in them, right? So Italy is my man's in them. So Italy already got their hands on that, and I got my people around there too. My goons there also. My gangsters there too. So me and you we're gonna talk about this, or we're gonna fight about it. It's on you. You can get down or you can lay down. Right? And I'm telling you, Italy, one pop, all pop, don't pop, you get pop when you stand down. You know what I'm saying?
Repeat that.
So then gave him a test 2 weeks later. Right? They didn't give it back to me in so-called gangster language, but they gave it back to me perfect. Right? Because I gave it to them in so-called standard English. Then I gave it to them in the language that they know very intimately. The language that their friends talk all the time. Right? The language of their neighborhood. And they said to me, one, it was more entertaining. Right? It was more engaging. But it was also more informative because I can connect it with something I already know. We learn through association. To try to teach a person something and try to divorce whatever they already know from that, they're not going to learn very much, right? Even if you learn a different language, you should connect the sounds of that language, what it looks like to something that you already know to help you remember in the future, right? Look at this card. So we have Uncle Clarence Thomas here, right? Uncle Thomas here. Uncle Thomas, we know a little bit of history. ministry of the brother.
Teacher.
Brother Ryan was making it plain a little bit more for me yesterday about Uncle Thomas, right? He's what? Gullah Geechee.
That's you.
Pinpoint, Georgia. That's where he's from, right? So he said when he was in school, he felt so ashamed to speak his own language, right? So he would just zone out into books, European books, of course, right? And he would just be quiet. And you think about that. If this person felt ashamed of his language, and he became this person, with language comes culture. Right? If you're ashamed of something, our people don't even want to be black. Look at Amos Wilson says this: oppression requires the disassociation of the oppressed from themselves, that they deny themselves in the service of their oppressor, that they avoid identifying with their original personality and perceive identification with it as detrimental to their survival.
Right.
The rejection of their authentic selves on the part of the oppressed is a necessary preparatory step to their replacement by artificial, manipulable selves socially manufactured by the oppressors. And tell me this cat is not.
French
Go ahead.
Right? So it starts with the language. If we are teaching our children to be ashamed of how they talk, we are really teaching them how to be ashamed of anything black and anything African. So when they get older, like, what are you talking about? They're black, what? Ain't nothing black, ain't no African stuff about me. I'm not, my ancestors maybe. I'm not even sure about that. My ancestors are actually Caribbean. Well, Negro, where did they come from? So we gotta be very, very cognizant of the repercussions of making our children feel shameful about their language, right? Because the ramifications later on can be very severe, and I think we see it in our culture, right? Black people don't want to be black, When you go to Ghana, I'm sure you go to synagogue, a lot of people don't want to be black. That's why they bleach it. He began to what? Bleach his language. Take the black stuff out of his language, so that he can be what? More accepted and all that kind of stuff. We bleaching our language. Not only are we bleaching our skin, it's here in America too. All those blemish creams you see on the shelves and all that kind of stuff, right? Lighten you up, get rid of the dark spots, right? So it's the same thing going on here. We bleaching the way we dress. We African American, we never see our African side. Never see our African side. I had a sister, I was working outside of DC in Maryland, Prince George's County, Maryland. And I was teaching high school English, and I used to wear my dashikis on Fridays because you gotta dress some other kind of way during the week, but on Fridays it's free dress, whatever. So I wore my dashikis on Friday, and the teacher said to me, she said, you know what? I got an African day at church coming up. And you know who I can get a dashiki? Yeah, sister, actually, you can get it from such and such place, right? And the next thing she says, can I bring it back after I wear it? But you was just ready to go to church on Wednesday. Anyway, sometimes we believe the white man's ice is colder and his sugar is sweeter, yes?
Yeah.
Many of us believe the white man's ice is colder and his sugar is sweeter. They got hip-hop culture, hip-hop language, right? Hip-hop music classes in the Ivy Tower. They value it, right? Let's put that in there. They value it, so you should value it also. Right? Black people listen to white folks more than listen to other black people. Right? We listen to the people that lie to us most. Who has lied to us most as the arbiters of truth. Right? Amos Wilson again tells us that we take white lies for truth and black truth for lies. Right? All the time. You come from a black man, you don't know about that. I don't know that. That Negro, we got something up with him. All we got to do is say, white studies show, and then we believe it. My mom, I've been telling my mom all the time, little remedies and all this kind of stuff. Months and months go by, she's like, I ain't doing that, I ain't got time for all that, but I'm going to take the white man medicine because that's what they need. Right? But soon as Dr. Oz say do it, Dr. Oz said, the same thing you been saying. Yeah, I know about it. I'm no doctor, but come on now, I know a little something. Language is power. Life and an instrument of culture and an instrument of domination and liberation. African people use their language when you talk about the Maroons. right? We gotta say things in certain ways so nobody else don't know what we're talking about when we go into the woods, right? And if you think about the kind of mindset that you have to even want to go to the woods and be alone, to live on your own, right? To do for yourself, right? You imagine our ancestors saying, look, I don't know where I am going to eat. I don't know where I'm going to sleep. I don't know where I'm going to get any food. I don't know where I am going to get any more clothes, but I know any place is better than this damn plantation. I'm going to the woods with a knife, and I ain't looking back. Not doing it. I'm going, and they will use their language as a way to communicate with each other to let people know, now is the time. Right? Maybe we can use our own Ebonics. Maybe that's one of the reasons why they don't like us to use it. Because they don't understand what the hell we saying. Right? You know how folks are. Some of you even say it. You hear a Mexican person or a Hispanic person speaking Spanish, speak American. We want to know what they're saying, right? But it's very powerful to be around people and they not understand what you're saying. Right? It's a powerful thing. You can use it if you desire to use it. Right? So again, we understand that it builds relationships. It also increases intelligence or understanding, and also it makes it relevant. Right? Makes it relevant. But now I told you that I left the public school system. I told you that I started my own African Center school, right? And the second brother Umar is about to start his academy. Frederick Douglass, Marcus Garvey, right? Leadership Academy, right? To continue to send our children to the public school system, right? Is to have them drink dirty water and get mad when they're sick. Like, we are boarding the minds of our children at a young age. It's a crime, yo. It's a crime what we're doing to our children because we don't believe in ourselves. If you really believe that you built pyramids, if you really believe that you built civilizations and all that kind of stuff, then why the hell don't you believe that you can educate your own children? Right? Understand that African wisdom teaches us that a plant, no matter how healthy, can survive in contaminated soil. Right? So some of us say, they have the responsibility of the school to teach them about who they are. I'm going to teach it to them when they get home. Man, it's all kind of stuff is going on in school. Your child is at school for 7-8 hours a day. So in New Orleans, it seems like it's 10. And it's longer hours. They only out until 5:30. Right? Now you think every night you're going to be able to undo all that mental pollution that has happened in your child's mind during the day? You tired yourself. Right? And many of us are not really studying. We're just going to teach them what? I don't know. Right? Because we're going to teach them the same thing we've learned. Right? Many of us don't know anything different outside of what these folks have taught us. Now I read a good deal, right? Definitely our story, yes. But I read Bible. And one of the psychologists I read, he said whenever he has a client, he wants them to get to one particular point. Because if they get to this point, he knows that their treatment is going to take off. They're going to get better. They're going to heal if they can get to this point. And that point is when they realize that nobody is coming. Nobody is coming. No one is coming to save you. No one is coming to do for you what you must be doing for yourself. Nobody's going to do it for you. Right? Once we get to that point, black people ain't got there yet. We're not there. We believe these white folks are going to save us. All we got to do is dress a certain way. All we got to do is relax our hair because when it's nappy, white folks ain't happy. So let's relax. You know what I'm saying? Let's do something with it, right? We haven't gotten to the point where we understand that nobody's going to do for us what we must do for ourselves, right? There's a story about two groups of people, right? You had the highland people and you had the lower land people. They were always beefing, they were always fighting with each other, right? And so in one particular war, the highland people actually stole a baby from the lower land people and went back up into the mountains, right? And so the lower land people said, we are going to get our best men together so we'll get this child, right? Get their best men, right? So they went on up, they tried trail after trail, climbing method after climbing method, but could not make their way up that mountain to find the mountain people. Right? So he just stopped and said, look, man, we tried our best. We're not going to be able to get this baby back. Right? But as they will begin to pack up, they saw a figure out on the horizon. It was a figure of a woman. When she got closer, they said, wait, that's the mother of the baby who we were trying to find. And as she got even closer, they understood. They said, she got a baby on her back. So when she got right there next to them, they said, how did you do what us, the best warriors of our society, could not do? How could you find that baby when we could not find that baby? She said, it wasn't your baby.
That's right. That's right.
It wasn't your baby. I said, y'all did a little bit, then y'all stopped. If it was your baby, you would have did everything you had to do to go find that baby. Right? Our children, enough of the excuses. We gotta do what we gotta do for them ASAP, right now. Right? So I said the first thing that we have to do is stop putting our children in the hands of our strangers, of these strangers, and our enemies. It's hard, right? Hashtag don't send them back. Put it on Twitter. Put it on the book of face. Don't send them back. Monday, don't send them back. You get to do it yourself. Because again, nobody's gonna do it for us. Right? I leave you with this. One of our greatest warriors, Stephen Biko, said that the most powerful weapon in the hand of the oppressor, right? It's not a gun, it's not a bomb. It is the mind of the oppressor, right? And when an orange tree in your backyard begins to produce bitter grapes, you know what I said? I said when an orange tree in the backyard begins to produce bitter grapes, then it's not enough to take all the grapes off the tree and hope for oranges the next year. You gotta cut that tree down and start anew. We gotta build our own schools. Thank you.